Welcome back to JimmyJunks, and in today's video we're going to be ranking all the eras of Cartoon Network, from my least favorite to my most favorite. The most favorite might be more obvious, the least favorite might be more obvious, but in between you get a various lists of all the eras ranked, from being surprised at what's ranked higher than another one that's ranked lower, and it's gonna be a surprise because my list is always changed over the years, but it's always been consistent. So here we go, ranking all the Cartoon Network eras. Now let's start with the worst, which is number 9, the Fall Era, which is headlined by "Fall is just something that grown-ups invented," a song by the Hives, which is absolutely garbage. The band is great, the song was garbage. The era is more reality-based television. It's real television, not cartoons like they essentially call the channel. And that was pretty much it. There's nothing more to say about the era. It's terrible, it was forgettable, and nothing more to say. Number 8, the Yes Era, which is basically a catchphrase by Fred Burger on Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. The programming stays the same from the CN City era, which was its previous era, and there's nothing more to say about it. It's basically just bland backgrounds featuring Fred Burger, I guess. I mean, that's all it was, really. There's nothing more to say about the era. It's basically CN City, but it's a bland background with Fred Burger saying his catchphrases, and that's literally it. That was the whole era. And it was very short-lived, but for good reason. Number 7, the Dimensional Era. And I'm only putting this so low because I've never actually watched Cartoon Network during the Dimensional Era, which is basically the current era, I think. But I never really watched it because I stopped watching it years ago. They had some good programs, but they basically ended all the good programming, like Adventure Time, regular show, which is probably their best show, and a few of the other programs that I can't remember off the top of my head, but it's just a lot of shows that they ended and they started some new programming, but nobody really cares too much for the new programs. It's kind of just like bland, kid pandering garbage, to be honest, and that's it. Yes. Number 6, the Starburst Era. And I really don't have anything to say about this era, because I've never actually seen the era. It's very lost in time. And most of the things you'll find is more the more popular eras that people have filmed, or really recorded, on their VCR back in the day. And that's really it. There's nothing more to say about the Starburst Era. I like the shows that they've brought up through What a Cartoon and a few of the other ones like Cartoons and stuff. They brought some really great programming in the Starburst Era. But we're going to go and put this number 6, I believe, on our list. Number 5, the Check It Out Era. And I actually do like this era because it brought a lot of great programming to Cartoon Network. Regular show, Adventure Time, Amazing World of Gumball, Steven Universe. I don't care for Uncle Grandpa at all, and I didn't like their bumpers for Uncle Grandpa opening up the Cartoon Network with him going, "Good morning." It's just so stupid, but it's something. It was they tried to bring it to the kids. It's more about kids-based programming than anything more crass for adults, but that's what you get with Cartoon Network, and that's why there's an Adult Swim that exists even to today. So number 4, the Checkerboard Era. The Checkerboard Era was the very first era for Cartoon Network, and it's really bland, but it's got a lot of personality to it. I don't know if that makes sense. The programming is awesome. You got all the classic Hanna-Barbera shows that essentially then went on to Boomerang, but it's not a bad, not a bad era at all. I wish I had grown up with the era, but I didn't. I grew up with Powerhouse and CN City, so that's what it is. But I did enjoy a lot of the programs that they had to offer in the Checkerboard Era, looking back. Yeah, they had a lot of classics, like Hong Kong Fooey. Just so many wonderful shows. And I like the style that they went for with the Checkerboard Era. It literally is what the logo represents, which is the greatest thing that they could do with the era. Number 3 is the Nudes Era, Noods era. Basically, it's these white figures that they then colorize into being each cartoon character, which is pretty cool. I like that era a lot, and the promos, the bumpers, everything was fantastic. It was right after the abysmal Yes and Fall era, I believe, and I know that they tried to make other things like the Wedgies shorts, which was great. I love the Nacho Bear sketches, the Big Baby sketches, and stuff like that, and I love the era's sense of creativity. It was very creative with all its bumpers and coming up next sketches and stuff like that. Like they literally was like, oh, coming up next, and it's like there's your character on that white figure. And when the era happened, I was like, oh, I want to get one of those figures for myself. And they do have them out there. I believe that you can actually get figures similar to those. But yeah, it's a great era, wonderful era. It should have been further than what it was, but it was only like maybe a couple years before Check It Out came out. So now this is going to be a controversial pick, but number 2 is CN City. Now I was thinking about putting this as my number 1, but I'm only putting it number 2 because of programming. The programming dulled down from Powerhouse into CN City only because a lot of the programs had to end. A lot of the programs were ending, and a lot of the programs had to be. There was new programs rolling in. They had some other programs coming in that they wanted to showcase, and the older programming had to take a step back. Obviously, some programs like Powerpuff Girls was still going for a little bit, and Courage was still going a little bit, and Ed and Eddie was still going for a while. Dexter was also still going, I think. So they had their older programming, but they had to add the newer programming in to shape it up a little bit. Like What's New Scooby Doo introduced in this era, and then you had some other shows like Toonami shows that were getting mixed in with them, and it was just such a great era. I love the interactions between each character from each show, and I like that the bumpers are so realistic looking in the whole city aspect. You got Cody and Kids Next Door had their own bumper series. Courage had its own bumper series. Dexter had its own bumper series.
My robot. My robot. Mine. Mine.
Every character had its own series, and then they all interacted with each other as well.
Laundry day? Yeah. Yep.
You seem to like black shirts quite a lot.
And it looks like you like it in pink. Oh, I'm just saying.
Oops. Sorry about that.
And then they had the most amount of bumpers that I think I could recall in CN City.
Let's get out of here.
And I think it's just such a wonderful, colorful world that they should have expanded on, or at least made a series out of it. That would have been great to see each character interacting more so than they did. And it's very hard to find a lot of the CN City bumpers because they're all lost in time, but you can find a majority of them on YouTube and a lot of other sites too, like Reddit and Wikipedia and stuff like that. So, and number one is Powerhouse. Obviously, it's Powerhouse. It's got to be Powerhouse. Powerhouse was my childhood for bumpers and for promos and stuff, and I like all the creative things that they did to make it seem much more different than any other network out there. They did so many great bumpers, so many great promos, so many great TV shows. They gave Tom and Jerry some life to it with their bumper series, and I'll show just a little bit of the bumper now. And that was, probably my favorite bumper that they've ever done for any Cartoon Network era. It's just so creative, just so wonderful that they did that, and I love it so much. I love it so much. And the Powerhouse is basically all the cartoons interacting with the logo instead of interacting with each other, which is interesting enough that they did that because my favorite one was Ed and Eddie going in the swimming hole, and the Kanker sisters take their clothes and then they have to censor it with the logo, which I thought was hilarious. Then they have other things where they're interacting with the logo. Dexter especially shoots the logo. I love that. And Powerpuff Girls, it's just so creative when they had all the characters interacting with the logo, because that's what the network is as a whole. And during this era, Boomerang was introduced as well as its own separate block on the show. And as well as Toonami was also introduced. And then you had the voice actor going, coming up next, it's followed by on Cartoon Network. And I love that so much. There's no era that could ever compare to Powerhouse. And especially all the different colors for different times of the day. All the different blocks for different times of the day. Cartoon, yeah. Cartoon, yeah. It's such a tongue twister. Cartoons, Cartoon Fridays, and Fridays just blew my mind growing up. I cannot say enough about cartoons and Cartoon Fridays for what they introduced for shows and programs. And Cow and Chicken, Dexter's Lab, Powerpuff Girls, and then Eddie, Dexter's Lab. Let's see. I got more listed here on my phone. You just had so many great shows. He had great programs back in the, late 2000s, like mid to late 2000s. And, but nothing could compare to the Powerhouse era content that they were giving you. And if I could go back in time and just watch if I could just go back in time and watch the Powerhouse era in its entirety, I would do that. But obviously, as a kid, I was switching from PBS Kids to Nickelodeon to Disney to Cartoon Network, watching a little Comedy Central, just switching through different programs. Like, every once in a while, I wouldn't stay on one channel. But Cartoon Network was always so amazing to me. I would watch it at my grandma's house all the time. And I can remember my favorite bumper was the falling laundry, I believe it was, where the laundry's falling and then the dress goes up in the air and then you see the logo. We'll be right back with the logo. And then I love the elevator one and the mouse on the mouse wheel. Just so many great bumpers. Just talking about it makes me so nostalgic. But wow, I just love it so much. But anyway, that was my ranking of the Cartoon Network eras. Some I talked more about than others because I have more experience talking about, what I know more of, and I know more of the Powerhouse and the CN City and stuff like that. So, but that was my ranking. If you like this video, click like, and if you want to see more, hit subscribe.